Welcome everyone in this new video tutorial about Diablo-like dungeon generator. In this video we are just going to quickly see why was our start tile bugging, and it was just because of our level generator, which had a force tile at the beginning of the level, which was a corridor, and that corridor was messing around uh, our logic that builds the start tile in a particular direction. So if we're checking out our layout metrics, we can see our start tile direction is random. If I'm saying it's north, it's not going to work. Well, this time it worked, but if I'm regenerating it, it doesn't always work, and that's because we have a force tile at the beginning of the level, and we are actually going to delete that early tile, and then when we hit play, it's always going to be north whenever we spawn our dungeon. And if we say we want that to be going east, for instance, we can see the tile is going east like that. And we also and we had some troubles getting the rotation working with prefab tool, and that was because of the way prefab tool generates the blueprints. For now, it fails to generate the blueprints properly. It generates child actors, and that's a bug that's going to be resolved, I hope. I reported it, and usually Nate is quick to fix errors. So the bug we had regarding the direction, the rotation of the tile, was because if we select all of the static meshes in there, not the blocking volume, because the blocking volume is not a static mesh, but all the static meshes, we can set their mobility on the right side of the detail panel, and we can say it's movable, and that way they are going to rotate the same way the other tiles rotate. So I just wanted to make a brief recap of the two different workflows, working with Blueprint and working with prefab tool. So with Blueprint, you basically want to have two maps. One that is, how can I say, env blueprint, we're going to call that, and the other map is going to be called blueprint, for instance. On that map, so we're going to save, open that up. So on that map, you want to build your tiles using only static meshes. So for instance, I'm building my tile. I want that, for instance. So you're going to build your tiles in there for the blueprint workflow. So let's say you build your tile. Okay, you're fine. You're working with folders. All of your tiles are properly stored in folders, for instance. So this is a tile, and what you want to do, you want to copy them. You don't want to convert them in here to blueprints, because once you converted them to blueprints, you cannot revert them back to static meshes in order to update the tile if you have troubles. Remember, in the previous video, I had to rotate one of the static mesh in the blueprint editor, and that's not the workflow you want. So you want to have two maps, and that map is the map where everything remains a static mesh, so you can update any tile you created. So let's say you finished your tile, you want to copy that. And you actually want to go to your blueprint map. You want to paste that, and in here you want to convert that to a blueprint, and then have it properly stored in your whatever folder you have. For instance, I store it there, and then you want to say that your tile, you want to open up your start tile, and you want to say you start tile, my bad, not that one, I believe. You want to say your start tile as the blueprint you just created as a child actor component, and then you also need to build to set up your gizmos in there. So once you build the blueprint, you need to get the gizmos and add them. But I suggest you not to actually add the gizmo there, because if you rebuild your blueprint, you're going to rebuild the blueprint from scratch, and you're going to delete that old environment blueprint of yours to have your new version in your tile. So I suggest you to actually add the components in there, to add the gizmos in there, I think. So instead of adding it there, Control X, Control paste, like that. That way, so you are adding your gizmo there. That way, when you update the environment tile, it's not removing the gizmos. Alright, that's it for the blueprint workflow. And regarding the prefab workflow, considering it's not bugged, you have a map prefab. Let's say you build up your tile, whatever. This is my tile. I'm carefully building all of that in folders, just because after I finish building my tile, I need to select all of the ideal workflow is to work in an empty map. That way you can select you can just select all. But for the sake of this, we're just going to say that we built our tile in a proper folder. You get all the static meshes, then you grab your prefab folder and you create your prefab. Once you created your prefab of the tile, you can put the prefab on the scene. You can remove what you built. This is an option. When you create a prefab, it can replace the selected asset, or it cannot. It's an option you can set up in your prefab tool options. So this is our tile prefab, and at that moment you can generate the blueprint, and you want to generate the blueprint in a folder close to the other one, like that. Oops, I failed. So you want to generate the blueprint. And once you've generated the blueprints, it's much easier than with working with blueprints, because you can do everything in there. So let's consider it, you finished that tile. Okay, you're done with that tile, you can destroy it. And then you play and you realize you need to update the tile. So you can just grab your prefab. You can just grab your prefab, add a bunch. So in that case, working with prefab tool, you can add your gizmos directly into the scene and drag and drop them to your prefab. Then you updated your prefab and you can just hit apply to save the modification you did, and then you can update the blueprint. In our case, the blueprint failed to. In our case, there is a bug where prefab tool loses its connection to the generated blueprint, but it's going to be fixed, I suppose. And you can assume in here there will be the blueprint you generated for that blueprint, and clicking update blueprints will update it. And then the same thing, we have to do the same thing we've done for the blueprints workflow. We have to say that our start tile has an environment tile, a child actor component using the environment tile, the blueprint we generated using prefab tool, which contains the gizmo in our case, in addition to the rest of the tile. So like that. And in the case of blueprints workflow, if you want to update, you have to go to your env blueprint map. You have to check to find the proper folder, the proper tile you want to update. You have to update it, change what you want to change. Then you have to reselect them all, copy paste them to your blueprint map, paste them, reconvert them to blueprints, and then go back to your tile, and update the environment tile it's using in there. In there, you want to select the newly created blueprints, the blueprint you just generated. So that's how you can work on your tile and update them. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.